Hello everybody, and welcome to Filled My Head, the channel that presents the United States and the world in lists of 10. Unless it's Friday, and we like to take 5 minutes to present a Fast 5 list. Unlike our main episodes, we skip the head-filling track and just give you the basics. Nobody wants to work really hard on a Friday. Today, we are looking at what to think about when you choose to relocate somewhere. This is part 1 of a two-parter, and no, 5 and 5 will not equal 10. We're approaching the question in two ways. Part 1 is financial, and Part 2 is intangibles. With that said, let's take a second to chat about finances. What we're really looking at is a cost of living comparison methodology. Put simply, a cost of living calculator answers the question of how does where I am thinking about moving compared to where I live now. Rather than lists to data sources used in this episode, we are going to include links to some of the better cost of living calculators, all of which use some or all of our top 5 criteria. Some of these overlap and intertwine, but we think you're all smart enough to get the gist. You can also, of course, build your own with a spreadsheet program, but sometimes it's easier to just have something in the can. Let's get rolling. Baseline expenses, also known as needs. Any comparison needs to start with understanding the differences in cost of the things you need to survive: food, water, shelter, and clothing. While some items cost the same where you go, think Netflix, your cell phone provider, probably. Those monthly subscriptions you never use that are robbing you blind every month. Side note, get rid of those, by the way. You should absolutely get rid of them. There are other items such as the cost of rent that can make a massive difference in your monthly baseline. Not hard to find these, by the way. Healthcare. We are strictly speaking about the cost of healthcare here. Guess what? It does not cost the same everywhere. And we don't just mean the premiums on your insurance bill. Those are pretty offensive everywhere, if you can even afford them at all. But what do the deductibles look like? A lower deductible plan for even $100 more a month can equate to a big out-of-pocket savings if things go bad. Beyond insurance, looking at the types of care near where you want to move is also important. Are there only private, for-profit hospitals nearby, or do you have access to lower-cost public hospitals, university medical facilities, and lower-cost urgent care clinics? It makes a difference in the bottom line. Utilities. We could make an argument that utilities are a baseline expense, but we like to separate it out because it can have a profound effect on your baseline, and it is subject to change in many areas with a relatively minimal amount of notice. Here in Houston, you can pay as little as 9 or 10 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity, but it was 84 degrees on Christmas and my air conditioner was running, and air conditioners use a lot of electricity. It isn't just about the per unit cost of natural gas or electricity. Climate plays a huge role in how much of a resource you will have to use eventually. Really look into this one. Commuting and travel. This is one that can sneak up on you. Things like toll roads and long commutes, not just in distance, but in time, can make a serious dent in your wallet and your peace of mind. If you're living in Manhattan, Kansas, and have a 4-mile drive to work on public roads, your cost is going to be very different than it would be someplace like Houston, where you might live 35 minutes away and pay $9 a day in tolls. We include travel here because if you plan on traveling frequently, your geographic location can make a real dent in your expenses. The once-a-year trip back home has a different price tag going from one end of the country to the other than it would if you were going from, say, the central U.S. to, well, almost anywhere. There's more to relocating than just cost, of course. We will dig in next week and look at some of the more difficult to quantify factors. But ultimately, you need to really understand why you were thinking about relocating. If it's for a better standard of living and quality of life, then be sure to do your homework and don't just take the word of an online calculator. Chat with people in the area. Ask friends if they know people that have lived where you are considering. More than anything else, make sure you are doing it for a good reason. If you're running away from an ex, from debts, from general unhappiness, those things rarely have anything to do with geography and tend to have more to do with you as a person and your outlook on the world, as well as your overall mental state. In other words, geography doesn't fix things that are internal. Taxes. Don't be fooled into thinking the state with an income tax is going to be more expensive than one without. For instance, in the state of Texas, where Filled My Head's located, many cities are among the highest effective property tax rates. And I can tell you based on the data I have seen that they are grossly underestimating what you will actually pay, at least in my area. If you're paying 2.5% to 3% or more of your home's value every year, that can more than offset a lack of a state income tax if your home is worth substantially more than what you make in a year. And by the way, that's true for most people. Add in sales tax, mud taxes, and any extra school taxes, local bond expenses, and more, and this is one to really examine carefully, and we mean very carefully. There's a reason this is number one. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. We appreciate your time. Check out our sources linked in the notes. If you like what you have seen, leave us a like. Subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when we post new content. These things help us a lot with the algorithms that drive the YouTubes. Have a great weekend and check with us on Monday when we will be posting our next top 10 list. Thanks.